The descent to Corvalis was smoother than Ethan Hayes anticipated. Through the viewport, purple-tinged clouds parted to reveal a landscape of jagged mountains and sprawling cities that shimmered like brushed metal under twin suns. He adjusted the settings on his exo wheelchair, preparing for the planet's notorious 1.4 G gravity. As Earth's leading quantum stabilization engineer, Ethan had earned his place on this diplomatic mission despite the skepticism of both his human colleagues and their Corvalian hosts. "Final approach in 3 minutes," announced Captain Voss over the intercom. "All personnel secure for landing." Ethan tightened the specialized harness across his chest. His legs had been useless since birth, but his mind had always been his true strength. The delegation was bringing advanced energy solutions to Corvalis, and his designs were the centerpiece, innovations born from years of navigating a world not built for him. The ship touched down with a gentle shudder. As the boarding ramp extended, Ethan felt the first crushing wave of Corvalian gravity pressing against his shoulders. He activated the enhanced servos in his chair, compensating automatically as he moved toward the exit. The welcoming committee consisted of towering humanoids with iridescent blue-gray skin and prominent brow ridges. Their posture exuded physical power, back straight, muscles visible beneath ceremonial armor adorned with battle symbols. Ambassador Thorne stepped forward first, offering the traditional Corvalian salute, right fist pressed against left shoulder. "High Commander Vex, we bring greetings from Earth." The tallest Corvalian nodded curtly. "We welcome those who bring strength to our world." Ethan maneuvered his chair down the ramp, the mechanical whir drawing immediate attention. As the gravity bore down on him, he was grateful for the chair's compensating systems. Still, beads of sweat formed on his brow from the exertion. A female Corvalian stepped forward from the welcoming party. Unlike the others whose heads were shaved in military fashion, she had silver-white hair braided tightly against her scalp, with vivid green eyes that seemed to glow against her blue skin. The insignia on her armor marked her as a high-ranking warrior. "This is Kira Vex, daughter of the High Commander and champion of the Southern Territories," Ambassador Thorne whispered. "Be respectful." Kira's eyes narrowed as she approached Ethan. "This one doesn't stand," she observed coldly. "Is it defective?" Before Ambassador Thorne could intervene, Ethan responded directly. "I'm Ethan Hayes, quantum stabilization engineer. My legs don't work, but my mind functions perfectly well." Kira circled his chair, studying it with unconcealed contempt. "On Corvalis, worth is measured by strength. What use is a mind without the body to execute its commands?" "Perhaps you'll find that different forms of strength have different values," Ethan replied evenly. She laughed a harsh, dismissive sound. "Pretty words. On this world, those who cannot stand on their own fall." High Commander Vex stepped forward. "Enough, Kira. The Earth delegation is our guest." His tone conveyed obligation rather than welcome. "Show them to their quarters." As they moved toward the city, Ethan felt Kira's eyes on him. His chair's motors strained against the gravity, occasionally stuttering over the rough terrain. Each time he faltered, her lip curled slightly. "The scientific complex has not been modified for your condition," she said, the last word dripping with disdain. "How will you function without your machine to carry you?" "I've adapted to hostile environments my entire life," Ethan replied. "This one's just a bit more honest about it." Something flickered in Kira's expression, surprise, perhaps, that he would speak to her so directly. Most visitors cowered before Corvalian warriors. "We'll see how long that confidence lasts, human," she said. "Those who come here either strengthen or break. I wonder which you will be." As they reached the massive gates of the scientific complex, Ethan caught her studying his chair's design with unexpected interest. For a brief moment, their eyes met, and beneath her contempt, he glimpsed something else: curiosity. That, Ethan thought, might be something he could work with. After all, changing minds had always been his specialty, even on worlds where physical strength was the only currency that seemed to matter. 3 days on Corvalis had taught Ethan more about endurance than the previous 32 years of his life. The scientific complex, with its towering ceilings and steep ramps designed for Corvalian physiology, posed constant challenges. His enhanced exo-wheelchair performed admirably, but by evening, his shoulders and back burned from the strain of navigating under increased gravity. The Earth delegation had been assigned to the Quantum Stabilization Laboratory, where they would help the Corvalians refine their unstable energy grid. Ethan's presence was tolerated only because of his unparalleled expertise with the technology. "The primary reactor fluctuations are increasing," Dr. Malik informed him, sliding a data tablet across the workstation. "Their engineers can't explain it." Ethan examined the readings. "They're approaching the problem with brute force when finesse is required." He began recalibrating the equations, fingers dancing across the interface. "It's not about containing the power, it's about guiding it." A shadow fell across his work. Kira stood in the doorway, her imposing frame silhouetted against the corridor lights. Since their first encounter, she had made a point of observing him daily, as if waiting for him to fail. "The High Commander requires a progress report," she announced, striding into the lab. "We're making adjustments to the stabilization protocols," Dr. Malik explained. "Ethan has identified some promising solutions." Kira's gaze settled on Ethan. "You claim to understand our technology better than our own engineers." "I understand a different approach," Ethan corrected. "Your engineers build magnificent systems, but this particular problem requires subtlety, not strength." "Always hiding behind words," she scoffed. "On Corvalis, we test claims with action, not theory." She moved closer, forcing him to crane his neck to maintain eye contact. "Tomorrow, the military academy holds its trials of valor. All visiting dignitaries are invited to observe or participate." Dr. Malik shifted uncomfortably. "Surely you don't expect—" "I expect nothing from those who cannot stand," Kira interrupted. "But if the wheelchair human believes his different strength has value, let him demonstrate it alongside true warriors." The laboratory fell silent. Ethan felt every eye upon him, his fellow scientists silently urging him to decline, the Corvalian technicians watching with thinly veiled derision. "What exactly are these trials?" Ethan asked, his voice steady. "Combat endurance, strength, and tactical challenges," Kira replied. "Those who excel earn honor, those who fail." She smiled coldly. "Well, failure on Corvalis has consequences." "And if I designed my own challenge," Ethan countered, "one that tests different kinds of strength?" Something flashed in Kira's eyes, surprise, perhaps, that he hadn't immediately refused. "Propose it to the High Commander. If he finds merit, it may be permitted." She turned to leave, then paused. "Though I doubt you'll find many warriors interested in tests designed for the weak." After she departed, Dr. Malik approached Ethan's workstation. "You can't seriously be considering this. The trials are brutal. I've seen previous exhibitions. They're designed to showcase Corvalian physical superiority." "Which is precisely why I need to participate," Ethan replied, already formulating ideas. "They'll never respect our work if they don't respect us." That evening, Ethan sent his proposal to High Commander Vex, a tactical simulation that required strategic thinking and resource management rather than physical might. To his surprise, it was approved for inclusion in the trials, though scheduled last, when most spectators would have departed. As he modified his exo-wheelchair for the coming challenge, he detected movement in the corridor outside his quarters. Through the partially open door, he glimpsed Kira, watching him work with an expression that wasn't entirely contemptuous. When their eyes met, she didn't look away. "You won't survive the traditional trials," she stated matter-of-factly. "I don't intend to attempt them," Ethan replied. "I'll be demonstrating a different kind of strength." "There is no different kind," she insisted, but something in her tone had softened. "What drives you to prove yourself among those who will never accept you?" Ethan smiled slightly. "The same thing that drives you to challenge me, curiosity about limitations and what lies beyond them." For the briefest moment, her expression changed, revealing something almost like recognition. Then the warrior mask returned, and without another word, she walked away. That night, as Ethan made final preparations, He realized the challenge ahead wasn't just about proving himself to the Corvalians. It was about showing Kira that strength manifested in ways her warrior culture had never considered. And for reasons he wasn't ready to examine, her opinion had begun to matter more than he'd expected. The trials of valor unfolded beneath Corvalis's harsh twin suns, turning the military academy's arena into a cauldron of heat and tension. From his position in the observation deck, Ethan watched Corvalian warriors execute feats of strength that would be impossible for even the most athletic humans. Kira dominated the early competitions, her movements precise and powerful as she defeated opponent after opponent. When his tactical simulation was announced, the arena had indeed emptied considerably. Only a handful of Corvalians remained, mostly scientists and a few curious warriors. Kira, surprisingly, took a seat in the front row. "The Earth delegate will now demonstrate an alternative trial," announced the presiding officer, unable to fully mask his skepticism. Ethan guided his chair to the center of the arena where a holographic interface awaited. He designed a resource allocation problem with multiple moving variables. Essentially, a simulation of managing a city's defenses during a crisis with limited personnel. The objective is to protect all civilian sectors while neutralizing multiple threat vectors, Ethan explained. Traditional approaches fail because resources are insufficient if deployed conventionally. As he began working through the simulation, manipulating virtual units and energy resources, murmurs rippled through the small audience. His solution involved unconventional deployments, using terrain and infrastructure to multiply the effectiveness of limited forces. When the simulation declared victory after just 7 minutes, half the expected time, even the presiding officer looked impressed. "A clever puzzle," Kira commented as Ethan exited the arena, "though solving games is hardly comparable to true combat." Before Ethan could respond, alarms blared throughout the complex. The High Commander's voice echoed over the communication system. "All personnel to emergency stations. Reactor instability at Mining Outpost 7. Level 1 crisis protocol initiated." The arena erupted into ordered chaos as warriors and officials rushed to their positions. Ethan caught fragments of information. A quantum stabilizer malfunction, miners trapped, radiation containment failing. "Your Earth technology has failed," Kira accused, moving to join the emergency response team. "Let me help," Ethan called after her. "This is precisely my expertise." "This requires action, not theory," she snapped, but High Commander Vex overheard their exchange. "Bring the engineer," he ordered. "If Earth technology caused this, Earth expertise may be needed." Minutes later, Ethan found himself in a command center overlooking holographic representations of the mining facility. The situation was dire. 23 miners trapped behind radiation shields, with the facility's core approaching critical destabilization. Standard rescue protocols couldn't penetrate the radiation without risking more lives. "The radiation barriers are impenetrable with our equipment," a Corvalian engineer reported. "We have perhaps 40 minutes before complete failure." Ethan studied the schematics, mind racing. "The problem isn't the barrier itself, it's trying to breach it directly. We need to go around it." "The only access points are blocked," Kira countered, pointing to the hologram. "Not if we create a new one." Ethan's fingers flew across the interface, highlighting a maintenance tunnel that ran beneath the facility. "This conduit carries coolant, but it could temporarily sustain a small team if the flow was diverted." "The pressure would crush anyone who attempted it," objected a Corvalian engineer. "Not with the right equipment." Ethan turned to Kira. "My exo-wheelchair's gravitational compensators can be reconfigured to create a pressure bubble. One person could navigate the tunnel and reach the miners from below." Kira stared at him. "You're suggesting—" "I'm the only one who can operate the chair's systems at that level," Ethan stated. "And I've spent my life navigating tight spaces while compensating for physical limitations." For a moment no one spoke. Then High Commander Vex stepped forward. "The Earth engineer will attempt his plan. Kira, you will coordinate from this end." As technicians helped modify his chair, Ethan caught Kira watching him with an expression he couldn't quite interpret. Concern, perhaps, or merely doubt. "This plan relies on technology, not strength," she said quietly. "Technology is just strength externalized," Ethan replied. "Your warriors wear armor and carry weapons, extensions of their physical power. My chair is no different." For the first time, she didn't immediately contradict him. Instead, she adjusted his chair's protective shield herself. "The controls are counterintuitive for non-users," he explained, guiding her hands. "Like this." Their fingers brushed, and for a heartbeat, something electric passed between them. An acknowledgement, perhaps, that they were now allies against a common enemy. Time. "Don't die in the tunnel, Ethan Hayes," she said, using his name for the first time. "It would be inconvenient for diplomatic relations." He smiled despite the tension. "I'll do my best to avoid inconveniencing you." As he prepared to enter the maintenance access, the reality of what lay ahead settled over him. The plan was theoretically sound but untested. If he failed, 23 miners would die, and with them, any chance of proving that strength came in many forms. But as he caught Kira's gaze one last time, he saw something new there. Not pity or contempt, but a warrior's respect for another entering battle. And somehow that made all the difference. The maintenance tunnel was a nightmare of claustrophobic darkness and crushing pressure. Ethan's modified exo-wheelchair hummed and whirred as its systems fought against forces that would have flattened an unprotected human in seconds. Coolant pipes surrounded him, their surfaces slick with condensation as he navigated the narrow passage. "Status report," Kira's voice crackled through his communicator. The connection was weak but audible. 15 meters in," Ethan replied, his breath fogging the respirator mask. "The pressure is increasing, but the compensators are holding." "The miner's oxygen levels are dropping faster than projected," she informed him. "You have 26 minutes remaining." Ethan pushed forward, acutely aware of every second ticking away. His shoulders ached from manipulating the specialized controls of his chair, which had been transformed into something between a vehicle and a life support system. A sudden tremor shook the tunnel, dislodging debris from above. Warning lights flashed across his interface as the chair's systems compensated. "What happened?" Kira demanded, her voice sharp with what sounded almost like concern. "Just some structural instability," Ethan assured her, though his heart raced. "Nothing the systems can't handle." "The reactor fluctuations are worsening," she reported. "The engineering team says you should abort." "Not an option," Ethan replied, continuing forward. "There's no time for another solution." The tunnel curved upward, becoming steeper. Ethan's arms burned with the effort of maintaining control as the chair's wheels struggled for traction on the slippery surface. For a moment, he slipped backward, the chair tilting dangerously. "Ethan," Kira's voice held unmistakable worry now. "Report." He gritted his teeth, making a rapid adjustment to the chair's gravitational field that pulled him forward again. "Still here, almost at the junction point." When he finally reached the maintenance access beneath the trapped miner's chamber, Ethan was drenched in sweat. The indicator showed lethal radiation levels on the other side of the barrier. "I'm at the access point," he reported, "beginning the bypass sequence." He connected his chair's interface to the facility's systems, initiating the custom protocol he'd developed during the frantic preparations. The chair's power reserves drained rapidly as it generated a protective field that would temporarily neutralize the radiation in a small corridor. "Field established," he announced. "I'm cutting through now." Using a plasma torch attached to his chair, Ethan carefully cut a circular opening in the ceiling of the tunnel, which formed the floor of the miner's chamber. As the metal gave way, he heard shouts of surprise from above. "This is Ethan Hayes from Earth," he called up. "I'm here to get you out." Disbelieving faces appeared at the opening. One by one, the miners descended through the hole into the tunnel, guided by Ethan's instructions on how to move within the protection field. 17 evacuated, he reported to Kira. 6 remaining. "The reactor is approaching critical," she responded, tension evident in her voice. You have 7 minutes before total containment failure. As the final miners entered the tunnel, a violent tremor shook the facility. Ethan's chair alarms blared as the protection field fluctuated. "The field is failing," he reported. "We need to move now." Leading the group through the tunnel was painfully slow work. The miners, weakened by radiation exposure, struggled to keep pace. When they finally reached the exit, emergency medical teams rushed forward to assist them. Ethan emerged last, his chair's systems nearly depleted. As medical personnel helped him from the chair, he looked up to find Kira standing before him, her expression unreadable. 23 lives saved, she stated, with no casualties. "The technology worked," Ethan replied, too exhausted for anything more eloquent. "No," she said, surprising him. "You worked. The technology was merely your weapon, as a sword is to a warrior." Before he could respond, she knelt beside his chair, a gesture of profound significance in Corvalian culture, where warriors knelt only to acknowledged equals. "You have proven me wrong, Ethan Hayes," she said quietly for his ears alone. "There are indeed different kinds of strength." That evening, as Ethan rested in the medical facility, Kira arrived with the unexpected gift of a Corvalian combat medal. "The High Commander wishes to recognize your service today," she explained. "This is typically awarded only to warriors who have shown exceptional courage in battle." As she pinned it to his medical gown, her fingers lingered longer than necessary. Their eyes met, and the tension between them had transformed into something entirely different. "I would like to understand," she said hesitantly, "how you became strong without the physical training our culture demands." "I had to," Ethan replied simply. "Adaptation isn't a choice when the alternative is failure." Kira sat beside his bed, closer than propriety might dictate. "Teach me about your kind of strength," she requested, her voice softer than he'd ever heard it. "And perhaps I can teach you something of mine." In that moment, the barriers between them, physical, cultural, personal, began to crumble. Ethan realized with startling clarity that he'd traveled across the galaxy to find someone who could see beyond his limitations to the person underneath, and he'd found her in the most unlikely place imaginable. The days following the mining facility rescue transformed Ethan's status on Corvalis, where once he had received contemptuous glances, he now earned respectful nods from passing warriors. His expertise was no longer questioned in the laboratory, and the Earth delegation found their proposals receiving unprecedented cooperation. Most surprising was his evolving relationship with Kira. She had taken to accompanying him during his work, observing his methods with genuine curiosity rather than skepticism. For his part, Ethan found himself fascinated by her perspectives on strength, honor, and duty, values that, stripped of their physical emphasis, he largely shared. "Your quantum stabilization theory is fundamentally changing our approach," she commented one evening as they worked late in the laboratory. "Our engineers always sought to contain energy through force. Your method of guiding it through precise pathways is elegant." "Different problems require different solutions," Ethan replied, making a final adjustment to the stabilizer core. "Sometimes strength lies in knowing when not to apply force." She smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her features, a concept my people struggle to grasp. Their conversation was interrupted by a deafening alarm. The laboratory's security screens activated, showing multiple unidentified vessels entering Corvalian airspace. "Raid ships," Kira identified immediately, her body tensing. "The Vekar Collective, scavengers who target technological installations." Before Ethan could respond, the High Commander's voice echoed through the facility. "All warriors to defense stations. Level 1 security breach. Hostiles targeting the scientific complex." Kira moved toward the door, then hesitated, looking back at Ethan. "The evacuation point for non-combatants is in the lower levels," she said, concern evident in her voice. "I need to secure the stabilizer prototype first," Ethan replied. "It can't fall into the wrong hands." Their eyes met in silent communication before she nodded. "Be safe," she said simply, then was gone. Ethan worked quickly, downloading the critical protocols and encrypting the system. As he finished, an explosion rocked the building. The security feed showed Vekar raiders breaching the main entrance, overwhelming the Corvalian defenders with superior numbers. He guided his chair toward the evacuation route, but halfway there, the power failed, plunging the corridors into darkness. Emergency lights flickered on as his chair's backup systems engaged. Through the security feeds on his personal device, he could see the Corvalian defense falling into disarray. The raiders had somehow jammed their communication systems. An idea formed in Ethan's mind. His chair's communication array operated on Earth frequencies, unaffected by the Vekar jamming. He could potentially coordinate the defenders if he could reach the central security hub. Moving against evacuation protocols, Ethan navigated toward the hub, using maintenance passages to avoid the fighting. When he arrived, he found the room abandoned, its Corvalian operators having joined the defense. Working swiftly, he integrated his chair's systems with the facility's security network, establishing a communication channel that bypassed the jamming. "Attention Corvalian defenders," he broadcast. "This is Ethan Hayes. Your standard communications are jammed, but this channel is secure. I can see the enemy positions and will coordinate your response." For a moment there was silence. Then High Commander Vex's voice responded, "Proceed, Earth Engineer." Using the security feeds, Ethan directed the Corvalian forces with precise tactical instructions. He identified the raiders' vulnerabilities, predicted their movements, and guided the defenders to optimal positions. What had been a chaotic retreat transformed into an organized counterattack. In the midst of the battle, he spotted Kira on a security feed. She was trapped with a small unit, cut off from the main force by a group of raiders. Without hesitation, Ethan overrode the security protocols on a nearby maintenance robot, sending it to create a diversion that allowed her team to break free. When the last raiders were captured or repelled, Ethan finally made his way to the command center. He found High Commander Vex surveying the aftermath, with Kira at his side. Her armor was scorched from battle, but she appeared unharmed. "The Earth Engineer's tactical guidance was decisive," the High Commander acknowledged, addressing his officers. "Without it, we would have suffered significant casualties." Kira's eyes found Ethan's across the room. She crossed to him, kneeling once more beside his chair, this time in full view of her father and fellow warriors. "You fought this battle without ever raising a weapon," she said, her voice carrying in the silent room. "Yet you may have been the strongest warrior among us today." That night, after the damage had been assessed and the wounded tended to, Kira came to Ethan's quarters. She carried a small wooden box inlaid with metallic symbols. "This is the emblem of House Vex," she explained, opening it to reveal a pendant of iridescent metal. "For generations, it has been given only to those who would join our lineage through alliance." Ethan understood the significance immediately. "Are you proposing something, Champion Kira?" She smiled, a blush darkening her blue skin to indigo. "I am suggesting possibilities, Engineer Hayes. My people have never considered joining with those from other worlds, especially those who differ from our physical ideals." "And now," he asked, heart racing, "now I understand that true strength manifests in many forms." She took his hand, placing the pendant in his palm and closing his fingers around it. "Some forms are more worthy of admiration and affection than I once believed possible." Ethan drew her closer, their faces inches apart. "Cultural barriers seem less insurmountable than they did when I arrived." "As do personal ones," she whispered. Their lips met tentatively at first, then with growing certainty. It was an exploration, a beginning, a testament to barriers overcome. Later, as they stood at the observation window watching Corvalis's twin moons rise, Kira rested her head against Ethan's shoulder. "My father has requested that you extend your stay," she said, "to help implement your stabilization technology throughout our world." "And what does his daughter request?" Ethan asked, taking her hand. She turned to face him, her warrior's composure giving way to vulnerability he'd never expected to see. That you stay long enough to teach me everything about your kind of strength, and to learn if what grows between us is as powerful as I believe it to be." As they embraced beneath the alien sky, Ethan reflected on the journey that had brought him to this moment. He had come to a world that valued physical prowess above all else, expecting rejection. Instead, he had found acceptance, respect, and something he hadn't dared hope for, someone who saw his difference not as weakness, but as its own kind of strength. And in that recognition lay the most transformative power of all.